Hi, welcome to Warwick Podcast Society. My name is Sukhinder. People know me as Sukhi at Warwick Business School, and I'm doing my full-time MBA here. So the idea for our very first episode came from a lot of people approaching us, me and my fellow batchmates, asking about various questions onto Warwick MBA, how our experience has been, and how to navigate the whole process about admissions and interviews. So when I was trying to search for this content over the web, and I couldn't find any, so we decided to make and help other potential candidates who are looking to come to Warwick Business School and do their MBA. So we have a very interesting guest from the admissions committee this time to help us and give us insights into the admission process and how and what they are looking into the potential MBA candidates going forward. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of Warwick Podcast Society. We have Philippa Perry-French here with us, who is the recruitment manager for WBS full-time MBAs. Welcome, Philippa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, just to give you a brief background about Philippa, Philippa has been with WBS for 10 years now, and she's the recruitment head. And she takes the admissions. She's part of the admissions committee. She manages a large team here in WBS. And just to give a fun fact, Philippa took my interview for my MBA, and it was really fun, to be honest. So it's very interesting to be on the other side and asking her questions now. Thank you so much for doing this and having us here. Do you want to straight dive into the questions?
Yeah, no, just my pleasure. Like you say, please be kind. You know, I can do your admissions interview, but I'm glad to hear it was a good experience.
No, I'm sure you'll be acing this one. But our first question to you is it'll be on the admissions, and because our potential candidates have a lot of questions to what Warwick and WBS is looking for.
Yeah.
So, what potential qualities do you look for in MBA candidates when you're interviewing them or you're hiring it for the next step?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we, as you know, Warwick MBA, it has a really good reputation. So one thing that we do get is we attract kind of a lot of students from all over the world. So we appreciate that they want to stand out during the admissions process. So I guess there are some minimum entry requirements that we're looking for. So we need candidates to have a minimum of 3 years work experience. There are sort of academic criteria that you have to fulfill. So we'll have to see a copy of your undergraduate degree if you have one. We may ask you to take a language test, but that's a requirement of the University of Warwick. So obviously for full-time MBA there is a GMAT, GRE requirement for the course entry. So generally on average people tend to have in the old classic version of the GMAT, they tend to have around a 670 kind of score on average.
Right.
But again, we tend to, probably the focus of admissions is, it really centres around that interview that we have with you that you've already mentioned. So I think we are quite different from other business schools because we really focus on that one-to-one interaction at interview. So we take an hour, we try and get to know you as much as possible within that hour, obviously put you at ease, which hopefully you felt at ease, but to try and draw as much information out of you as possible about your post-MBA career goals. That's so important to us, what you want to achieve, because we then make a judgment about how we can help you do that. So alongside all of the other questions we ask you, we're really wanting to ascertain, can we help you achieve your post-MBA goals? So yeah, for us, there's some minimum requirements, but we are really championing people with different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds. We'd like to see people from all different industries, sectors, because we think that gives you a better experience in terms of who you meet and network with in your full-time MBA.
Yes, and I would completely agree with that. But in our interview also was very conversational, and you made me at ease, and then we spoke about different things, and even my dog was jumping on me in my interview.
I've seen it all. Kids, dogs, pets, cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Unexpected interruptions. I think that's certainly when I interview someone, the tone, it's, recognising that this is a formal process, but I don't see that it informal to get to know you,
Right.
because that's very important to me, and it's part of the process. I've got questions to ask, I've got a job to do, but if you feel relaxed in the interview, you will naturally give more information than perhaps you thought you would. So
Yeah. And diving to the next question, which a lot of people also ask me, is about the diversity and inclusion, which
Yeah.
an MBA cohort has. This year also we had more than, I think, 25 plus nationalities in
Yeah.
our MBA. So how are you managing this aspect from an MBA admissions committee perspective, and how are you attracting people from South America? So one specific question we had was attracting people from South America or
Yeah.
Latin America, and what are your thoughts onto it?
Yeah, sure. So I'll probably take it. You may have to remind me of the last part.
Yes, I will.
But I would say, so for the recruiting, sort of for my team, and part of our goal is to obviously try and get a good number of you, but also crucially to get a diverse group. There are a number of factors there, I think, in terms of the gender diversity, which is really important and quite challenging in this particular programme. And then there's also the nationalities, the sectors that people come from in terms of industry and where they've worked. And it is quite challenging, because obviously on one hand you have to balance people being qualified, being academically capable of undertaking a master's degree, and then obviously you want to try and also balance a good range of diversity as well. So it's definitely one of the things that our team looks at, and so that for that reason we tend to make sure that there are a number of people involved in the selection process. So you'll probably be aware that obviously it's not just my team, it's obviously the director of recruitment and admissions, but also we've got two academic selectors. Ross is one of them.
Yes.
So he's very, someone who is your associate dean is actually actively involved in selecting people for the class. So we've got that academic perspective as well. But yeah, the view is very much to give you as rich an experience as we possibly can in terms of the applications that we receive. So nationality, industry, and gender. In terms of particular demographic, in terms of particular regions, yeah, absolutely there are challenges. And I think what I observe, having been here for 9-10 years, is that those markets are quite volatile as well. So the North American, South American market in particular, I've seen the Latin American market be very strong for Warwick.
Yes.
But at the moment it seems to be in a time of sort of decline, which we're not getting the volume of applications that we have done in previous years from that region. So what we do to respond to that is we make ourselves, or play a long-term game of making ourselves more visible in that region. And I think it's Warwick Business School and the University of Warwick that does that. So it's not just the business school, it's the whole university. So yeah, a very long-term game to try and raise our profile in Latin America and North America as well. The North American market, I mean, that is a complex beast on its own, because obviously so strong for MBA level studies, so many amazing Ivy League universities to compete with. So we do tend to attract people who are looking to live in the UK after, so they target a UK MBA, but that's a smaller percentage of people to begin with. So again, a very tricky market where probably the long-term goal is to raise our profile as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. But we have many people from Latin America this year in our batch as well, the current MBA batch which we have.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Moving on to the next part, where we're talking about what does business school provides to their full-time MBA students from an academia plus from a careers perspective, post-MBA, and how are they helping our MBA students succeed their post-MBA goals.
Yeah, sure. Because I mean, this is a huge, if I were thinking about a full-time MBA, this would be my number one question, because there are lots of amazing schools, amazing universities. So what does Warwick do that's at that standard. So I think the thing I always say to people about when you're comparing an MBA versus maybe an MSc, for example, is an MBA is the catalyst for career change. So an MSc is probably more typically something you would do straight after your undergraduate degree. It'd probably be a bit more specialised than an MBA in a sort of certain area. Whereas an MBA is different because it combines both the academic and the practical and real life skills. So you'll probably know better than me, having obviously participated in this, but using real life case studies in your lectures, giving you exposure to real life live consultancy projects, but also having a really dedicated focus on achieving what you want in your career after the MBA. And it begins almost from the moment that you get your offer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, coaching, sort of bringing out your personality preferences and leadership qualities, but working with the Careers Plus team and then our external facing employer relations team to sort of target the external employers that hopefully you'll be working for. So I think an MBA it has that strong academic, and for us, obviously, we're really proud of our academic community and the professors of practice that we have that are quite unique, I think, in terms of they're very active in external companies, but they're also PhD professors and doctors. So there's a combination of things there, and I think that's why people should think about somewhere like Warwick, because it combines both the practical as well as the academic, and it obviously gives you that in a world-class environment.
And I would completely agree with this. I think the moment we entered into our MBA program, our careers team were with us, and then we started interacting with the employee relations team. There are so many teams to work with, and they're all so helpful. So I think it's a great place to be in. Moving on to the next question, I would ask you, what do you think is your take on to the financial aid or scholarship with the potential candidates who are applying to Warwick?
Yeah, sure. Because again, linked to the last question, this is such a big decision about your future. Again, it would be one of the first things that I thought about was how are you going to fund this? How are you going to? And there's obviously everybody has their own unique story in that regard. So in terms of what Warwick Business School does, we offer scholarships up to 50% on the full-time MBA program. So you just need to kind of tell us that you want to be considered for that process as part of your admission, and it's competitive. So we take into account application factors, interview, that we try and consider the whole portrait that we've created of you, and obviously we have a budget for that, but there are other avenues that people might want to consider as well. External funding sources, there are scholarship programs specifically to come to the UK that people might want to consider, like Chevening if you're from an eligible country. Some people are lucky enough to come on government scholarship, so whether your country has something like that you might want to consider and put yourself forward for. But this is some people are lucky enough to get their employers to contribute, but obviously that probably means going back or some sort of contract with your current employer, which again with the full-time MBA is a little less common for us, but it's not unheard of. Funding your MBA is the big question, and we want people to take that seriously and think about it. And we hope and feel that we are supportive in those conversations of helping you think about, how realistic and how much funding you'd need, and sort of supporting you as much as possible. I think we're pretty good at that. We've got a lot of experience in doing it, so.
Yes, and I would agree to it. You have a lot of scholarship options. It's there on the Warwick page as well. It's all detailed very much into the page. Yeah. And we have a lot of students this year also who has come from the employer scholarship program from there. And also country scholarships. Like from Mexico, from Indonesia. A lot of people who are there are from employer or government funded.
It's definitely happening. I would say Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, these are quite well known for sort of government sponsored scholarships. So if there are any questions, hopefully the admissions team, business development team, we're well versed in helping. But yeah, I think it's an important thing to think about and to have in your mind is how you are going to fund it.
Our next question, which so a lot of people are also speaking to me, connecting me through LinkedIn.
Yes, I've had it mentioned a lot to me at interview. I've had lots of names of your classmates who are clearly doing an amazing job at promoting their experience. So because we're well into interviewing for 2024 and lots of your names are coming up. So that's great, obviously, for us.
As the Warwick ambassadors, we would love to be, promoting it. But I would say a lot of people are asking me this question, which is a very tricky one, where in respect to the UK government's regulations and limiting students and bringing their dependents, and what do you think, how is it affecting the UK MBA education sector per se, and like Warwick, what is your view onto this?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you my sort of personal view, and then I can sort of tell you how Warwick's been approaching this. Because when this legislation was announced, so this particular legislation is relating to on the student visa, which you can apply for the full-time MBA. It's been a historic arrangement that you can also bring dependents with you, so that would include things like your spouse, your partner, your children. And I said at the time this was announced, I don't think there will be a demographic or a group more affected by this than the full-time MBA group, because of the requirement to have some work experience. And we personally find people have sort of 6 to 9 years of work experience on average. You're talking about people who are in their 30s, their early 30s or their late 20s, and they are at that stage of life where they may have partners, husbands, wives and children. So it's then obviously an added extra consideration for them to think about, I'm going to leave my family behind for a year. So we were and we remain very concerned about this move. On a personal level, I feel furious about it, but this is very much reflective of a change in UK government legislation. So it affects every UK university and institution. I can't think of a group who'll be more affected. So how it kind of impacts the people who are thinking about studying in the UK. So you have to bear this in mind. So obviously, I think in the UK it's very, very typical for a master's degree to be studied over 1 year, whereas elsewhere 2 years would be much more typical. So with that in mind, we're trying to sort of reassure people that if you're in a position to do it, it's only for a 1 year period. So we're trying to sort of mitigate it and do what we can. But the University of Warwick is, we have to follow the regulations, the legislation passed on to us by the UK Home Office. So our hands are tied. We try and support people, and as you all know, we support people through that process of applying for a student visa. So all of the many, many steps that come with that process, we will try and support you with. But it's a very sort of, we feel, negative thing that will disproportionately affect someone studying a full-time MBA.
And I would say, but in our batch as well, what I've seen is in the current batch, there are a lot of dependents who are there. There are a lot of people who are, have come with their kids, their wives, which is not kind of, I feel it has not affected that much for us.
Yeah.
And hopefully going forward also, it won't, there are someone to come to UK and study.
Yeah, I think I've seen it vary year on year. I think I've seen classes where lots of people have brought spouses, children, and we've been very involved in that process of helping them find childcare in schools and things like that. But I would say it really does depend year on year. It can vary. as word gets out about this, I think obviously we'll see a decline in obviously that market, but we'll still do what we can to support anybody that's successful in their application in obtaining a student visa.
And also with respect to the residence and everything, which is there in like the Warwick campus for the family residence halls, which are there.
Mm-hmm.
All my MBA batchmates are living on campus very comfortably. They have this very nice, huge apartments on the campus, which becomes very easy for them to not look out for houses anywhere else, and then it's become easy to relocate with the family then.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have enjoyed being very set up to accommodate families, and that's not just for the MBA. That's across the university. PhDs and academics visiting. The family accommodation. We're very lucky that we have campus accommodation. Not every UK university is able to offer that kind of pathway to quite secure accommodation, because if you're in a city, that's going to be much more difficult for you to gain university accommodation if there is any. So we are very lucky at Warwick that we have such a high quality accommodation all around us on campus.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question, it would be more on, what do you think, what is the next exciting thing coming for the MBA from 2024 onwards, and what do you think there's any change in the program, or what is exciting for the people who are coming in the next year?
Yeah, so we're open for applications for 2024. So I would say one thing that I've observed about sort of course changes and things is it's very reactive to your feedback. So I think you'll probably be sick of being asked this, but you're asked for feedback continuously throughout your MBA. But that I have seen that change the course structure, change elements of the programme. So I think one thing I'd say is that the programme team, the careers team, everybody involved and invested, your course director, we are listening to your suggestions. We are hopefully making positive changes based on your experiences. And one thing that is new for people applying in 2024, and we have been very active in campaigning for, is the inclusion of an internship in your capstone project. So traditionally this was always a dissertation, so something that you may have done if you've done undergraduate level study, but obviously at master's level, which is more academic based, or a strategic consulting project, which was generally the most popular option. Probably nobody will be surprised to learn. But this was a live project problem business case that you're working on as a small group. But the internship will be an option for students in 2024. So there is information on the website, sort of basic level, because it's received approval for 2024, but we only have like a basic level of information. But what I do know is that you'll be self-sourcing this internship opportunity, but obviously it will comprise the time frame that would have usually been dedicated to the strategic consulting project, but it gives you a huge opportunity. And we were talking about how networking is going to be absolutely key, absolutely vital, I'd say, to this project at the end. So if you've got a really clear idea of where you want to do your internship, that's going to need to be something that you're thinking about from quite early on in your MBA. But you'll be given support from the employer relations team, the careers team, as much as we can, and it does come with sort of written parts to it, like the strategic consultant. You have to hand something in, so it doesn't it doesn't mean that you won't have to submit anything, but hopefully a huge asset to the MBA experience, this opportunity to work at an MBA level internship for a company.
I absolutely agree to this. And this was our feedback this year as well, and like I would say that this is a plus, like a great add-on to the whole course which we are offering to the students next year, because then it becomes very easy for the opportunity to work with the same company again, and then since you've shown your work and how you're performing, and if the company can give you an offer later on. So it's a great add-on. I would say I think it's been the feedback which has been taken into consideration of many MBA students over the years. I would say we are excited to see how this also pans out for the next year MBA students, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm almost done with my questions, but one last piece of advice you would like to leave with our MBA aspirants who are coming in from 2024, what would that be? And
yeah, I think probably the single bit. Well, there are a few pieces of advice that I'd give to people who are thinking about the MBA. Is if you're coming to that point where you're ready to apply, it's such a vital part of the process. I talk a lot about the interview and putting your best self forward at the interview, but obviously the thing that gets you to interview is putting together a strong application. And our process requires you to reflect back on your career quite a lot. You probably don't remember, it was so long ago, but we look at the questions every year and we try and make them around kind of reflecting on your career. So thinking about the things that you have done and that you want to achieve in the future. So I'd say that kind of giving it its due time is important. Likewise, I've talked a lot about the interview, but it is a significant part of the process. But I think the main thing that we're looking for from that interview is clarity around the goals. So that's probably the single biggest thing I'd say to people. But celebrating your differences and some of the exciting aspects of your career, the things that you're most proud talking about, because those things will shine through in whether it's application or interview. I think we're keen to hear about your personal success and how it will contribute to the MBA and the experience of other people. So much of the MBA is about meeting your network, we do our best to try and make sure that that's in a really diverse group. But obviously, for you, it's putting your best forward at the application and interview. WBS celebrates the change maker. You'll have seen it's all around the building. It's everywhere you look. So we're really kind of asking you. We wrote those questions with the change maker model in mind. So I think it's giving it its time, reflecting on your successes, and just making sure that shines through clearly in the application and the interview.
Thank you. And I would completely also agree to this part where you're saying, how change maker as a candidate you're looking for. And plus, the majority of the learning happens in the classroom.
Yeah.
It's between, your colleagues which are there, which come from diverse backgrounds, I would say thank you so much, Philippa, for being
My
here.
pleasure.
It was lovely to have you. And
Thank you.
I hope your insights will be useful for the potential MBA candidates who are applying to WBS next year and the years going forward.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.